So in today's video, we thought we would show you around our chicken house a little bit. We were getting ready to clean it out, and before we did that, we wanted to show you what a functioning chicken house looks like without it being all dialed up, just picture perfect. This is like an everyday what we deal with and what we have here. So this right here, our rig, we haven't cleaned this out in 5 months, which is a very, very long time to not clean out a chicken house. So, but we wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to show you how, even after a 5-month period, how organized the chicken house is. And anybody who has chickens will know that no matter what you do to prevent the opportunity for chickens to just absolutely destroy everything, they're still going to come up with a way to destroy everything. And so, 5 months is a very long time. We normally don't wait that long, but we just wanted to show you like how effective some of the design features of our chicken house actually really is. So we were going to show you that and kind of talk about a little bit of our mindset that we were in when we built the chicken house, when we first got out here, and the way we were thinking and how we went about building it. So let's start by taking a look around the outside. So this is a more zoomed out view of our chicken house, so you can kind of get a better view of the overall thing. So as we're talking up close, you will be able to track better with what we're saying. So we're having to do it this way because this is an attempt to help you be able to hear it better, because we don't actually have a microphone. So if I say what's going on, I narrate, and she does the presentation, I think will be more effective this way. So let's see if we can stay coordinated enough to accomplish our goal here. Okay, so the basic structure of our chicken house is 8 feet by 8 feet square, and it has a 812 pitch on the roof. So, and then we have a small chicken yard off to the back, and there are some windows around the back of the house that you can't see from here. We'll go around and get a better view. But you'll notice that the place, the spot of land that we selected to put the chicken house on is very unuseful for anything else. It's really, really steep. You could even see some of the bluff stones sticking out of the ground right there. And so we stacked us a little dry stack wall right behind her there and threw a bunch of little gravel stones in there, cleaned up our field out here to level out a place to walk to check the eggs. And then further down, we also built another wall and leveled out a place back there so we can clean out the chicken house. We'll go around and take a look at that here in a minute. So yeah, that's a basic overall view. You can see what we're dealing with here. So let's get a closer look. Before we get too far into explaining about the structure and all the choices we made there, I kind of wanted to take a moment to talk about why we made the decision to build the chicken house in the first place. Now, when we got to this piece of property, it was kind of like a panic. It wasn't a thing that we had thought about for 5 or 10 years and saved money, and we're going to make this gallant move to this homestead, our dream. That's not really what happened. It was sort of a panic, and out of a necessity to survive, we ended up here. But when we ended up here, we had absolutely nothing. We had nothing. Now, a lot of viewers were already here a little bit of this backstory, but maybe some people watching this video don't know anything, and so I kind of wanted to throw this part in there. And so we had very little money. We had $600 to our name, and we got here in late fall, and we had no idea where our next food and where our next money was going to come from. We had no car. We had nothing, and so in that reality, that's what made building the chicken house make so much sense to us, because it was a way to spend a very small amount of money investing in 50 chickens and then raising them up and getting a return on our investment. So it would ensure that in the near future, we would have access to food. We wouldn't starve to death. Whether or not we ate the chickens or some of the chickens, you know, and then let the others lay some eggs. But it sort of ensured that, okay, in the near future, we have some stability. And so that was our ultimate decision, or reason for making the decision was trying to establish that little bit of security, because in our reality at the time, we had zero stability. So chickens are something that are minimal investment, and you get a lot of return. And even if you can't afford to feed them, you can let them free run and they can feed themselves by raking under rocks and leaves, and there's so much for them to eat out here. Now your egg production will go down, and so we have managed to be able to feed them for most of the time. Sometimes we only give them 1 can of food a day, but overall it has brought a lot of quality to our life. So let's go ahead and take a look around and talk about some of the techniques we use to build this thing. So for our foundation, we decided to use cedar, red cedar. We have a little bit of that out here, and that is a really good wood for anything that's going to be exposed to the elements, because it doesn't rot very quickly, so it lasts really long in the elements. So we have a red cedar poles here for our foundation, and they don't really contact the ground. They set on these flat stones that we had put in here, but that's still a really demanding situation because there's a lot of moisture, and even dirt and rain and everything gets up on them. So that's still kind of ground contact, even though it's not. But anyways, the red cedar deals with that really well. Now we peeled the bark off of the cedar poles, and that really extends the life of the wood. If you leave the bark on it, it saves a lot of work, but it also, there's so many bugs in the bark that get into the wood because of the bark. So if you peel the bark off, it really adds a lot of lifespan to your work. So we have roughly 8-inch cedar poles here for the bearing post, and then the joist here maybe 6 to 8 inches also across through there, and the same thing with our shear bracing might be a little bit smaller. So that is the foundation of that. Let's take a look at the siding and the framing. So the chicken house was the first thing that we done here. Now it came before the tractor. We didn't have a tractor at the time we were building this chicken house. Now that is, anybody who's worked the land or done a little homesteading knows that having a tractor is a very essential piece of equipment. It's sort of the heart of the operation. Now we didn't have the tractor at this point. So all of the lumber that you see the thing built out of, we had to cut the cedar logs here and then drag them by hand down to my brother's mill and then carry the milled lumber back here to the site. And there's also no road that comes to our homestead here. So everything was just carried through the woods down a path until we got to a bigger road that we could get to the mill. But that's a good ways from here. And so what we had to drag the logs with was this set of 2-man tongs. I think that's what they're called, 2-man tongs. I'm not sure. We always called them a drag queen because they're really good at dragging logs. So anyways, the only thing we had was the drag queen here. Now this is a piece of equipment that I had forged quite a few years back and given to my sister. So when we got back here to this area, she had this available for us to use, which was a good thing, because if I hadn't given it to her, we wouldn't have had this to use at this point. So this tool right here, an essential piece of equipment. It saved our lives. Anyways, so that's how we got the lumber here to the site to build the thing. So let's take a look inside and see some of our design features. Now, the first thing you'll notice on the way to going inside is this latch. This is a latch that we forged, and very simple operation here, just 3 pieces of metal. And you'll notice how when the door closes, it doesn't latch. It doesn't slam shut, because you don't want to be inside there and then the wind blow and then bam, you get locked inside. That would be a disaster. So it doesn't slam shut. And another thing is, if a coon or a bear is prying at the latch like they do, because coons will come all over the outside of this thing everywhere and be scratching and clawing and everything, there's no way the coon can accidentally open the door up. Now, a bear could push the entire chicken house open and bust it to shreds if he wanted to, but they just don't really seem to want to. So I'm not actually saying it's bear proof, but for the most part, it is bear proof, and definitely coon proof and possum and skunk. So anyway, so that's the latch. Works pretty good, very simple operation. Let's go inside and take a look. So now keep in mind this chicken house hasn't been cleaned out in 5 months. So this is what it looks like after 5 months. Now, I built a few of these chicken houses back east, and so I have changed a few things on our design, but not many. The basic design is still the same. So we have a ladder right here, and this ladder allows easy access to the roost. And you'll notice that the roost here are all the same height. So what that does is, like, you normally see in a chicken house like roost at an angle, and so there'll be a roost here and so on and so forth, but that creates this like competition for prime real estate, because like it seems in the chicken world like the highest chicken is the one in charge, and so it creates this like this competition to be like the leader chicken and get in there and get up higher. But this way here, I know this sounds crazy, but it makes all the chickens like on the same level. And so when they're out in the yard, or when they're out about, we have 2 roosters right now, and they almost never fight. We never have fighting chicken problems. And anybody who's had multiple roosters knows that fighting chicken problems is a thing. And once they start fighting, they just don't stop. And fighting roosters, I can't stand dealing with fighting roosters. Anyways, so having the roost level, in my chicken experience, really, I know this sounds crazy. I'm sure we'll get a bunch of stupid comments for making this statement, but in reality, I swear it eliminates a lot of that fighting rooster problem, the equal opportunity real estate on the purchase. So that is a major important design feature in our reality. You guys can do whatever you want to do. Now, the next design feature that this chicken house has is it has this chute. So you can see the roost, all the chickens. The mess from the chickens happens when they are roosting. So we have this chute right here that catches all of the waste. And all of that waste lands on the chute and goes down, and we have a long trap door on the bottom down there. You probably can't see because it's too dark. But that long trap door makes it very easily to remove all of the chicken waste, and we keep it for composting. So let's take a look at the floor of this chicken house after 5 months, and you'll see you could walk in here barefooted if you wanted to. You could walk in here barefooted. It's not messy at all because of this chute right here. This is what keeps everything clean. Now that is 5 months of waste right there, but we can easily remove that really, really quickly. So yes, the equal opportunity real estate for the perch and the chute that collects all of the waste. That, man, it makes it so much cleaner. Now, another key element to keeping your chicken house clean is, well, let's go back to the roost for a minute here. Let me backtrack. So you'll see the roost are all equal opportunity. We have the chute underneath it. And then notice the roof. If you can see the roof up here, there's no ceiling joist, and the collar ties are held up so high that the roosters or the chickens can't jump up onto the ceiling joist or jump up onto the collar ties. Because if there's anything that they can get onto, they will go up there. So you have to eliminate all opportunity for any roosting other than where you want them to be. And so they can only roost right here, so they're all equal opportunity. They don't fight, and all of their waste is caught. So that's a major design feature. Now the next thing is our nesting boxes. You can see we have this roof put on them, really, really steep. So the chickens can't roost here because they'll fall off. Otherwise, they jump over here and destroy all of your efforts to keep your chicken house clean. So we put this roof on there, and that makes them fall off. And you'll notice that all of the nesting boxes are down really low. And the reason why we put them really low is because that eliminates the desire for the chickens to actually roost in the nesting boxes. Because if they're up high like you see all the time, they're high, and the chickens don't want to sleep down by the ground. They want to sleep up high on something. And so if you put your nesting boxes up high, all the chickens will nest in your nesting boxes, and then that destroys everything. So we keep our nesting boxes down really, really low, and then the chickens don't have a desire to sleep in them. So let's take a look at our nesting boxes down here. Now we have 15 nesting boxes. And even though we have 15 nesting boxes, we have 45 hens or so. And they don't use all of them. Whatever nesting box the chicken is using at the time, they all think that's the best one. And so what we do is we get our eggs out of the chicken house every other night. And then, so we'll come in here and we'll put the eggs, we'll evenly space them around. And then the hens will think, oh, all of the nesting boxes must be really good. So they use all of them at that point. And so if let's say, like, if you check your eggs, I know this is another thing that sounds really stupid, but if you get your eggs out every night, you'll get 2 dozen eggs a day or something. But if you get them out every other night, you'll get 5 dozen eggs. It seems like if you leave the eggs in here, the chickens get this sense of security, like, oh, they're not taking our eggs, we'll lay more, because all of our efforts are not just fruitless. And so I think it tricks them into laying more eggs. I know that probably sounds ridiculous, but it does. And so when it's not freezing outside, we get our eggs out every other night, and it seems to really increase the yield of eggs. And so we have 45 hens, and so when they're in, like, good laying season, right now they're molting, so we're not getting many eggs at all. But when they're laying good, we get anywhere from like 2 to 3 dozen a day. And anyways, another thing we use is in our nesting boxes, we don't use straw. Straw is like a common thing that people think you use for bedding and nesting. And I don't know why they think that, because it doesn't last at all. If you use, like, straw is very loose, and each piece is really rigid and loose. And so when you put it in the nesting box, the chickens just kick it all out immediately. And in the first week, it's all gone. But if you use hay is much cheaper to buy, and it's stringy and it hooks together better. And so when you put the hay in the nesting box, they can't kick it out, and it makes a much better nest. And so I don't know why everybody doesn't use hay, but if you try hay, you will not go back to straw. I can assure you of that. So those are a couple things what makes our chicken house pretty clean and pretty functional. You can see after 5 months, you could walk around in here barefooted, and it's really not disgusting to be in here. So let's take a look at our chicken yard and see some of the features we have out there. So we decided that we would put a little bit of energy into our chicken yard. A chicken yard for us was an essential element. You hear in the homesteading world, you hear the term free range, and it's just loosely thrown around like unconditional free range. That's got to be the best thing. But in reality, that's not the best thing. Maybe in some people's situation, but not ours. So we live out here in the woods, and there are so many things like foxes and coyotes and bobcats just all around. And so if we just unconditionally let our chickens free range all the time, our flock would get reduced down to nothing really, really quickly. And so that's one of the reasons why we built the chicken yard. The next reason why we built a chicken yard is because we have my brother and my mom and dad and my sister and her kids and husband, they live down that way a good ways, and we collect all of their leftover food, all of their slop, and we feed our chickens that. So what would we do with that slop? Would we just take all that slop and dump it in a random place in the yard, and the chickens would come and make a huge mess and dig a hole, and that would be ridiculous. And so that's why we kind of use the thought process of free range within reason. And so we decided to put energy into our yard for those reasons, because it makes the chickens safer, because we'll often be working somewhere cutting firewood or milling something, and we won't be here. And if we weren't here, our chickens would just be getting eaten one by one by coyotes. And so with our chicken yard, it gives them a lot of security. So for us, a chicken yard was a really, really good thing. Now we have walls as well as a roof on our chicken yard, so nothing can get into that chicken yard. And we have the wire that comes down here, and then it goes way out across the ground where we dug it into the ground and backfilled rocks on top of it. So nothing can get into this chicken yard. There's 2 ways into our chicken house. There is the main door, and then around the side here we have this chicken plank I'll show you here in a minute with the little trap door, where the chickens have free range and they can go in and out whenever they want to. So, but if we're not here some night, if we're camping or if we come back late after a hike or after riding our bikes or something, the hour of death, like where your chickens get taken down, is that right before dark period. And so if you have your door wide open and you're not here, coons are just going to come in and eat your chickens. And so if you think you're going to be back after dark, best just leave them in the yard. So there's so many reasons. I'll stop rambling about it, but free range within reason. So the chickens that we have in our chicken house here is they're black Australops is what those are called, and we selected that breed of chickens because in my past chicken having experience, I thought these were the best chicken for the job. Now these chickens, they don't mind being locked up, so they could care less. You can open the door and half of them will stay in here and half of them will stay right around here, so they don't really mind being locked up. So that's one of the reasons why we selected them. They're also really good layers, and you can eat them, so the best balance between the two, you know. And they also are really good mothers. I've seen these kind of chickens before where two of the hens will sit on a nest and they'll hatch the eggs out and they'll share the peeps equally without fighting, which is very unusual for chickens. And I don't think I've ever seen that happen between any other chickens. So they're pretty calm and docile also. But they also set on eggs, and they're so likely to hatch out peeps. And I guess the term would be go broody. They're so likely to go broody. I've never seen any chickens do it as much as these. And so we selected them for that reason too, because we wanted them to be able to reproduce. And so let's take a look around here and you'll see how the chickens actually get in and out of our chicken house. So this right here is how the chickens access the inside of the chicken house. We keep the other main door closed and they go in and out of here whenever they want to access their nesting boxes or the roost. Now, our yard here, it's you know, like a cage, and it's very, very secure. No coons are getting in here. And so at night we close up this door right here. And we close up this door at night to make sure that no coons are getting in here. There's no way coons are getting in there anyways, and we don't have to close it up because everything is so secure. But we do it anyways to make sure that there's no way that they're going to get eaten while they're trying to sleep. But anyways, let's go around and take a look at how we get the waste out of the chicken house. So we selected the site to build this chicken house on because it was so steep and so useless for anything else. You can see that the back of the chicken house right here is really, really high off the ground, where the front is not very high off the ground. Now you can see also she has a nice flat spot to work right there because we built this dry stack wall, and then we filled in the gap behind it with all the rubble stone that we picked up out of our field and out of our yard. And that gives us a nice flat spot to work. So when we clean the waste out of the back of the chicken house, we open up that door and then we can just push all the waste right out into a container and we haul it off to our composting area. So that's pretty good system. It works really, really well. Let's go around the front and take a look at the roof. So the roof of this chicken house, like I said very early in this video, we didn't have any money to invest in this thing. It only cost like 40 bucks or 50 bucks or something like that. So the roof of the chicken house, we done it the same way that we done the lap siding. We basically just lap sided the roof in hopes that that was gonna get us a few years until we made enough money to buy metal roofing for it. And it works so good that we haven't put metal roofing on it yet, and we probably won't need to for a very, very long time. Now, when we first put the roof on, there was a couple of knot holes in the siding, and it did leak through those knot holes. And so you can see up on there, you can see a couple of the shiny pieces of flashing. Those pieces of flashing, we bent the flashing and stuck through from the top or from the inside to cover up those knot holes so it wouldn't leak. And then we just did the traditional, like they used to do split shingle roofs, where you just, you know, put one here and one over there, and that's the ridge. There's no flashing on the ridge or anything, but believe it or not, it doesn't leak a drop. And so it's been working for 3 years, and we're probably gonna leave it up there as long as we possibly can to save money. Anyways, that is the roof on there. It works good. So that was a painfully long, quick walkthrough of our proper homesteading chicken house and some of the thoughts and reasoning that went into building it. We hope it brings you guys some value, and we'll see you next time.